Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for another PWA Studio Community Sync. Today, we are a little light on the content, I think, on the demo content from on the team side. Of course, I'll give the team an opportunity to demo anything that they have. But we're really excited to have with us today Ewan and the team from DigitalSix. We've had you guys before to demo some of the work that you guys have done on the whiskey barrel, but I thought it was really important to have you guys join us, talk about obviously since then you guys have launched the site, get you guys perspective on how the launch went, things how it was working with PWA Studio post launch, right? And so I think that'll be a really exciting content for us to have on the call today. And then lastly, I think we'll cover some community corner kind of content and updates, and then we'll wrap from there. So quickly, I'll turn it to the team that's on the line. If you guys have anything to demo, feel free to ping me, jump in real fast. Otherwise, we'll cut straight to you and the team. All right, there we go then. So Ewan, we'll turn it over to you. Feel free to intro your team and then walk us through.
Cool. So I've spoken to, can everyone hear me first? I'll check. You can hear me? Good. Cool. I'm Ewan, Technical Director of DigitalSix, and we've got Tony McCall and Yoda on the line as well, who were the developers that implemented this. So I'll let them do the majority of the talking because I can't answer most of the questions. But yeah, we recently launched our first PWA Studio website, the Whiskey Barrel. And I'm going to hand over to the guys to talk through what we liked about it, what we struggled with, and what we're looking forward to with. Obviously, 2.4 is going to be a big change for PWA Studio with the amount of functionality that we're going to be getting there. So that's definitely something we're looking forward to. So, Tony, do you want to go first and maybe talk through the front end?
Yep. Yeah. So I won't be talking too much about the actual launch because I was working on other stuff when we actually launched this. But as far as what I liked working, like the CSS modules was definitely like beneficial, but something we're looking at implementing in future PWA Studio projects is we're intending to use Sass and probably like getting rid of the CSS variables that are in there completely, and then just have some like basics of like some modules with mix-ins and variables. So that's a plan going forward. One thing I do have a question about.
Do you want to run through the site quickly? Do you want to just go through the front end and just show sort of are you able to share your screen?
I should be. We'll find out. I don't know if I've shared my screen on here before. So let's just have a look.
I know some people have already seen the site before, but for anyone that's not.
Okay, I'm going to have to restart if I. I'll have to restart this because I haven't shared my screen and it has that Mac.
All right. I'm going to see. Okay.
Do you want me to just? I can quickly restart.
It might be better, yeah, just in case. I think some people have probably not seen the site before yet, so I think.
Okay. It'll definitely be good to get that walkthrough. So yeah, we have that time here for the restart, and then we'll hold on, maybe tell a good joke, or you guys can move forward with the other parts of the demo.
Cool. We'll see you in a sec, Tony. I don't have any jokes. But yeah, no. I think generally we really enjoyed working on this project. It's been the most exciting project we've done in a long time, probably since we made the jump to Magento 1 about 8 years ago. So it's I think the most significant change in how we work since then. And the way we see it, we are going to hopefully eventually become a pure PWA Studio. We're not going to do any normal Magento front ends anymore in the long run. Obviously, we've got some projects which are using traditional Magento 2 front end at the moment, which we'll have to complete. But going forward, PWA Studio is going to be our primary choice for any any future projects, unless there's a really good reason to not use PWA Studio.
I mean, I've spent my entire day so far working with a standard Magento site that's running really badly, and my solution to this has been, let's just convert it to a PWA. It's so much easier.
Yeah, fix everything.
We like to hear that for sure.
I assume you can see my screen now.
We can see your screen, Tony.
Cool, that's good news. Okay, I'll just do a quick run through then. So this is thewhiskerbarrel.com. It's not all the content is actually coming from Magento 2, so stuff like the sliders, the carousels, that's coming from Prismic. We felt that was a suitable option for bringing the content. Let's have a quick look through down here. So we've got various carousels and such like.
The reason we used Prismic rather than Page Builder is that this is a Magento 2 open source rather than Magento 2 Commerce, so we don't have access to Page Builder, because if we had, we would have probably used Page Builder for all the CMS.
And go on to
We also had a WordPress to import, and using Prismic just made it easier to bring all the blog content in without having to get it in through the Magento CMS as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing that's turned out quite useful using it, like using PWA Studio with Prismic and Magento, is that we could set toggles quite easily in Prismic to like change templates, because even on category pages like this, quite a lot of content comes from Prismic. But yeah, that lets us change templates really easily. So we could, there's lots of like toggles in the back end of that, which will, because they've got a few categories like that they like to display differently. Things like independent bottlers. This is, for example, has the logos on the category landing, and then we've got I'm trying to think which is the other one. Maybe it's exclusives. That's a standard category page for you. Some things we've kept quite similar to the default PWA Studio kind of layout. Filters are on the sidebar, although they've been styled up. Brown-wise, also we switched which side to make it a bit more consistent. And I'll just run through the product and add to cart so you can see that whole process. And we've got various like product attributes being used here there's some nice visuals as well, like the tasting notes down there. We've implemented a library for image zoom as well, and I'll add this to cart. And with that, so yeah, we've stuck with the like sidebar cart. We've got optional gift wrap module, but that's one that Yoda has built for this. And check out. So we've opted for having it's quite similar. It's pretty much based on some Magento 2 checkout. We felt it was a bit of a nicer experience for customers. So I won't go any further than that on the checkout because we'll all, yeah. And so that's a run through the site. In general, it's been pretty easy to work with. It's just everything is a lot more time consuming. That's one thing we've definitely learned. And also some features, for example, like account features that would that you kind of take for granted when you're working on a standard Magento 2. So one thing that came up quite close, well, like later on in the project when we started running through lots of testing, was there isn't any feature for actually resetting passwords on accounts. So we had to build in a functionality for that, which I'm sure Yoda will talk about more because he had quite a big role in that. But there was some issues we ran into. It didn't like the admin area didn't like using different like URLs.
That was the
Another-
biggest issue, was the URLs.
Yeah. So yeah, your dad, if you want to expand on what we
So yeah,
did.
we had to basically I had to build a lot of the GraphQL just to fill out bits that didn't exist, like resetting passwords, adding extra data for orders. So we actually built an order history, so we're still working on that. The gift wrap functionality, it's in commerce, but it's not an open source, so I had to build that as well. We're currently working on gift messaging because that's, again, not something that's supported in the GraphQL yet. But we're just about getting that sorted out. A lot of it has just been filling in things. I said the biggest headache was the URLs, because the PWA is on www.thewhiskeybarrel.com and the Magento 2 is not. So Magento always wants to return the backend URL, which is not the front-end URL. So we had to use the custom admin URL hack to make that work so we can actually return the right URLs. And then we had an issue where, because there's a bug in Magento, it would always try and send you back to the PWA when you saved products. And there's just a lot of niggling things, and it basically doesn't handle being on two different URLs very well. It was just a headache. It took about 2 weeks to sort that out, back and forth. Largely than that, it's not been a huge headache. Let's say it's just missing functionality. Sending emails, resetting passwords, dipping estimates, gift messages, block alerts. Nothing huge other than custom attributes. We had to build in functionality to actually allow custom attributes on products to come through. Because a lot of them are drop-down values, so all that would come through was the number for the ID, and there was no way to convert that into a front-end value. I really didn't deal with anything actually on the PWA side of it. I just made the back end work so the PWA could work.
So yeah, in general, Yoda experienced a lot of questions from me and Mikhail going, why isn't this working, or why can't we get this? And then Yoda made it work, so we could actually access the data we needed. And yeah, the product attributes one is a good example, because yeah, we were just getting the ID like values, which by itself isn't particularly useful on the front end.
Yeah, the other one we had issues with was the WYSIWYG ones, because they came through unformatted. So you'd get all of the WYSIWYG tags for media URL, I think, and not an actual URL for the image. We had to build the formatter to get that to actually come in before it goes out to the product as well.
Yeah, that is a good example. Which yeah, we encountered that when we were just trying to add. I think we were just trying to add an image section as like a product attribute for like an extra section on the product description. Yeah, and we encountered that issue. I don't know if Mikhail, is there anything you want to go through?
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, I'm Michael or Mikhail, and I've been working mainly on the PWA front end, and it's been really interesting to work on this project as we have learned a lot of new things. And this project is really big, so we have gained a lot of new knowledge, and we are really happy to. I think when we use the PWA Studio, it helped us a lot because some of the functionality was already implemented in the PWA Studio, so it definitely saved us some time. And other than that, we had some of the things just needed some implementation, but it really helped a lot. And for the future projects, we would like to integrate TypeScript and to help us with the stability of the PWA, and definitely we would like to get more testing done. So that's what we would like to do. And I think Tony and Yoda summed up everything important. So that's probably everything from me.
I think the only other thing we hit a major issue was the server-side rendering and getting that up and running whilst remaining compatible with. We chose a hosting company before we realised that they didn't support SEO Snap, so we then had to effectively build our own PHP implementation of SEO Snap, which is working fine, although it's.
I mean, the explicit issue was they didn't support Docker.
Yeah. So we now have a PHP version of that. But yeah, so I can't think of any other major issues we experienced. I mean, there was a lot of learning involved. But we've got another PWA Studio project on the go at the moment, so we don't know when that'll be launching just because of the size of the project. But we will keep you updated on our developments with that, and probably have some questions for you guys as well.
Absolutely. We're happy.
I've got about a quarter written blog post on all the issues I ran into in the back end. So when I actually manage to finish that, then I'll get that out to you guys as well, just so you can see the breakdown of what we did and how we fix things.
Yep, and we'd love to have the feedback. And just to be clear, as a disclaimer, we didn't pay you guys to say anything positive about PWA Studio, right?
No.
But we are open to bribes.
As I say, the check's not arrived yet.
Oh man,
no, I mean
that really messes with my first question, because now if I have to bribe you, then any potential discount we might get for whiskeys would end up kind of being a wash. I mean, the whiskey is still welcome per se.
We did do a check, and they don't actually offer discounts at all because their margins are so low, as is.
Yeah, we don't get any free whiskey ourselves, unfortunately.
It's not even legal to ship alcohol to Texans most of the time, because we're a very virtuous place here.
where there's a will, there's a way, Mr. Zetlin.
Yeah.
So you need the cut-out mailboxes for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can ship all sorts of things. I do have questions, but historically, I have been able to easily take up everyone's question time. So I want to leave it to the end if someone else has the burning question about what they've just seen. I'll just say, if I don't get the chance to ask mine, that this was amazing. It was the most impressive, by far, PWA Studio visual and personal experience that I had seen thus far, and I was thrilled to see it.
Yeah, hey Zetlin, I'm gonna chime in just really briefly. So this is Craig Herdman, the manager of PWA Studio, and sorry, SpongeBob might be playing in the background. I can't guarantee that it's not. This was the most impressive PWA Studio demo that I've seen. Not to disparage the other ones, but I think we've seen an evolution over time as PWA Studio has evolved and the quality of the various sites that we're beginning to see. I love it. I have it installed to my phone. I can pull it up. It's fantastic. It's incredibly responsive. There's, as Zetlin mentioned, it's very visually stunning, and it flows well. And I have yet to run into a single issue as I've been navigating around the site. So well done. I paraded around to my friends, and it's an amazing site. So pat yourselves on the back, and we really appreciate the feedback that you've been giving us about the experience.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been a really fun project to work on as well. Just a nice change of sort of technologies and things.
Absolutely. So now that we've all patted each other on the back, like Mr. Zetlin said, maybe we'll open up to anyone on the call for questions. Feel free to ask tough questions for any of the DigitalSix team members here.
I just have a quick question. As far as I mean, it is a very nice website. It has a lot of functionality in it. I was wondering, do you have to leverage REST APIs for some of that functionality? How much do you get out of the box, or how much do you have to customize in your code, or I don't want to say hack around, but that's a lot of what we do as developer. So how much of that do you have to do to get some functionality that maybe is not available on our GraphQL yet?
Quite a bit. So like I said, we've got a couple of things that we've had to hack around. Most of it is just missing functionality, like I said earlier. So we've had to add in stuff for getting shipping estimates, for getting country names, resetting passwords, sending emails via a contact form, adding addresses and items to order histories, adding gift messages.
Did you achieve
setting
that
up-
by combining REST API with GraphQL, or are you using a different, third-party
So
API
all
or
of this
service?
stuff is a module. It's old modules we built to
Okay.
add in extra GraphQL functionality.
Okay, so you extend the GraphQL with
Yeah.
Magento modules.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've done the same for custom attributes, product alerts. We had some issues with changing store IDs because it's a multi-store site. So we had to do some functionality for that as well. That's the majority of the stuff we did for default Magento, because I've kind of separated out. We had to make some modifications to some other modules, third-party ones. So Amasti GOP and Brightpearl modules we had to adapt to actually add in some GraphQL functionality because they didn't have any.
Okay. And would you say you would prefer to build custom modules and extend GraphQL than building a storefront using the standard, I like to call it the legacy themes?
I mean, I like both. So I'm actually finding myself in a bit of an interesting situation at the moment. Because traditionally when I've been building things, I've been building up the back end because I'm a back end developer, and then building the front end functionality for the front end guys to come in and finish up and style and make it all look pretty and work nice.
Mm-hmm.
And now what it is I'm basically just patching Magento, make it work the way it needs to, so that they can make it look pretty and do all the front end functionality. So realistically, I need to go and retrain in PWA stuff so I can help out on that side as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think extending that's been my experience as well, and I think just want to see how easy or was it easy for you to create those modules and extend GraphQL, and is there anything that PWA Studio or product could do better to help you create or extend GraphQL on your own?
I think it was probably trickiest the first couple of ones I did, when I was still trying to get my head around how it worked. By the end of the project, if we needed a new bit of GraphQL functionality, I could punch it out in a couple of hours.
Okay.
It was like, depending on what it was, some things was like really quick, and other bits it was just give me a couple of hours and I'll source the Magento functionality and bring it out into GraphQL. Because where possible, I didn't want to write new functionality. I just wanted to use the existing Magento functionality. So it was a lot of figuring out how it worked and then how to incorporate the GraphQL into it. Because I didn't really want to be rewriting the wheel when I could just use what was already there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are going to have to
Thank you.
revisit things with 2.4 because we've written a lot of functionality that's now going to be available in 2.4. So, the latest PWA Studio. So things like the account area, we're going to have to work out how we do that, because going forward we'd like to use the Magento functionality rather than our own, so that it's getting updated. So that's going to be a factor. Ideally,
hopefully, I've written it in a way that means it's backwards compatible, so we can swap over without conflicts. But
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, right? Is that every major release that we have, whether it's the Magento core release where we're releasing additional GraphQL coverage, right, or PWA Studio releases where we're releasing additional functionality with cart and checkout recently, and now we're moving into my account, right? Like every release that we push, fortunately, is helping with that story of requiring customization in areas where there are gaps, right? So that we should tighten that up over time, and by this time next year, right? Obviously, if you're working from newer versions of PWA Studio, that problem shouldn't exist, but it is a reality that teams have to face today, and you guys look like you tackled it head on, and in the end, I think it is a customization requirement, but something that, as Yoda said, right, by now he can kind of do some of those GraphQL extensions in a couple hours. So, of course, we're closing that gap, but happy that you guys were able to kind of work through that. So we look forward to obviously working with you guys and getting feedback on how it is working from the newer releases and how the backwards compatibility and the cut over to some of the newer functionality. So it'll be great to get you guys' feedback on that.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted when we're doing that.
What else? What other questions do we have on the line?
I had a question. Did you guys find our documentation useful at all during your development process? And if, what other topics you would like to see that would help you all out more in the future?
Yeah, I think the GraphQL documentation was very useful for us, and yeah, everything described in the documentation worked pretty well. And probably we had some issues with like a server-side rendering or switching to stores. So probably that's something we'll like. That's something we haven't found in the documentation, and probably it will be great to have. But other than that, the documentation worked really well for us.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mikhail on that. It was a really good reference, and it pretty much had everything we needed there. And it was easy to read. Yeah, it was well documented. And recently, I was looking to do something, and it seems like there's some of the Webpack configuration documentation is up there. So that was quite useful when we were looking at implementing like lessons, SAS and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good and well documented.
Cool. Thanks for the feedback.
That's really good. Can I ask what briefly were your rules and desires around switching domains and URLs? It's something that we're running into as well, and it might be kind of soon on our docket for improving.
Is that the logic behind using different URLs for the admin and the front end? Or
was that the only issue, or were there more? I mean, I may have missed that you needed to go back and forth between subdomains or domains, but was it just having admin access and PWA access on the same domain? Was that all?
For this specific project, we've got the Magento admin running on a separate domain, and then there's a single store. Well, no, there's multiple storefronts, but they're all on the same domain. So it just changes the currency. But we did have so that the reason. Well, we basically wanted to run Magento on one port and the PWA on a different port. So that was the easiest setup to get the admin panel, the standard Magento running. It's also been really helpful debugging because we then had a normal version of Magento and a PWA Studio version. So when there were issues, we could look at the Magento 2 version and identify whether the issue was with Magento or PWA. So it was a handy debugging tool to have a sort of Luma version of the site running, so we knew the functionality was working, but it was just when it was getting to the PWA that was the issue.
The real issues we had were in the URL resolver. It doesn't do very well when you actually have different admin and front-end URLs. So it was throwing a lot of wrong URLs and then errors, just in trying to bridge the fact that there was a different domain for the front end and the back end. We did eventually resolve it. I think I've got a patch that I had to write to make that happen, because the back end bit of it's just a bit buggy. But we did get around it in the end.
That's quite sensible. Okay, I mean, I guess I'd love at another time for there to be a little bit more detail around that, but I also don't want you to have to work any more than you already have. So I think we can derive some of it, but if you think there's anything that we seem to have totally not noticed or that would surprise us, please feel free to offer that, like in Slack or wherever. Yeah. But we definitely understand, for instance, because of like new requirements around payment auth redirect workflows, that we need to have an understanding on the admin side of where the PWA lives. One other question, very generally, what challenges did you experience when trying to style Venia components? When you were attempting to reuse Venia components, did you need to impose a new color scheme or new styling rules on them? And And if so, how was that experience?
Well, generally, like there's two different approaches. Some of the existing like modules were quite easy to adapt. We ended up keeping like the overall structure with the main like there's I think it's like index.css with like which has like all the variables in and kind of
Right.
some more global styles. We ended up keeping that. That's probably something we won't be keeping in the future, like in the next project we do. So, well, we're planning to just switch it completely to SAS variables. We found ourselves kind of just making a lot of our own like modules essentially,
I see.
because it was easier and quicker. Because some sections like it was hard to really keep them how they were using the way it was set up with the styles and stuff like that. So we end up just taking maybe like some of the functionality and then just starting from scratch on quite a few of them.
Okay.
And yes, at the time we just retained the actual functionality in components, and a lot of times that just pretty much scrapped a lot of the CSS.
When you were trying to just reuse the view logic rather than the visuals, did you find the Peregrine talons to be useful or hooks to be useful, or did you end up re-implementing a lot yourself?
In general, yeah. In fact, in general, we used a lot of hooks as they were, but there were certain things that we ended up having to alter. I can't think of there's one in particular that I just like it's not coming to me. But overall, yeah, there was exceptions, but I think there always will be exceptions, because every site has a different use case. But yeah, overall, yes. Mikhail might be able to expand more on that as well. If you have any thoughts, Mikhail.
Yeah, as Tony said, we have probably used some of the talons and hooks which have been already provided by the PWA Studio, but we had to make ourselves, for example, for Google tracking, our hooks and something like that.
Okay. That's I'm interested in the Google tracking part, but that would get into some details. Interesting. Well, there's a lot more I could ask. I mean, I don't want to grill you, but you guys are part of the community engineering Slack, so you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, I'd be interested. A lot of the struggles that you encountered are things that we are paying attention to, but the more perspective we have, especially from folks who ended up producing such a great experience, the better it'll be for us.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm working between projects on a blog post to kind of bring out some of the issues we had and how we fixed them.
Hey, sweet.
So once I've got that done, then I'll pass it over to the Slack as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions for you and the team? Great. Well, then we'll take a quick pause to do a little golf clap for the team at DigitalSix. Whiskey barrel over there. Yeah, thanks guys for joining today again for another demo, and thanks for sharing your project. And of course, we look forward to continue to chat with you guys and get feedback from you guys. We look forward to your blog post, right? And so we look forward to more exciting projects from you guys in the future. Okay, moving on. I think the only thing we have to do is cover kind of community corner. I think community corner. Jordan, I think, dropped from the call, and Lars could not make it. So we have Tommy on the line to kind of quickly talk about some of the recent developments for community and community engagement over the last week.
Hey, all right. So yes, this is the weekly where I pretty much show the same exact thing every week, asking people to come help us solve some bugs, develop some new features, whatever you want to do. So let me just go ahead. All right, so for anybody not familiar, if you go to our repo and are looking for community work, we have this project board called the Community Backlog with prioritized things in it. We've been working tirelessly to try to fill prioritized items into this board. So a lot of them have a lot of detail in them, a lot of guidance from architecture and team leads, and really just looking for, if you're looking for anything to work on to help contribute to the project, this is where you would find it. A new one, what we're going to try to do is maybe highlight one of these issues every week. So a new one that came up, which is a brand new feature that was added in 2.4.0, was forgot password functionality. I think the guys here that just showed Whiskey Barrel mentioned that this was a gap in coverage. It's now available. So using GraphQL, you can send a mutation to request a token be emailed to that user. That user takes that token, enters it back into the PWA to send another mutation to reset their password. That resets their password. They can now log in again. Previously, there's just nothing you could do. I think you'd have to contact your site administrator unless you built out something custom. So this one should be fun. It involves a couple new mutations with GraphQL. The UI is kind of there already, so there shouldn't be a lot of like UI work. So that's if kind of building UI is something that you're adverse to. This is kind of like more kind of back-end, front-end work where you're just interfacing with GraphQL and sending off the correct requests and then validating them. So if you're looking for work, this is a great one. It's flagged for our 8.0 release, if that turns out to be what is actually the release. But there's some other good ones in here. If you're on Windows, there's some Docker issues that some people have encountered. So we don't operate a lot on Windows internally, so community help in that front would be greatly appreciated. And if there's anything else that's not on here that you think is a priority that you'd love to work on, you can always reach out to us, submit issues, feature requests. We're definitely open to anything that might be simple to do and a high value add. That's always a win-win. So that's it for me. Anything else you want to add, Andrew?
Yeah, the other thing here is that, of course, Tommy has spent a lot of time making sure that our issues that are on our board are properly tagged with priority, severity, and as well as award categories, right? So if you've been involved with the community and are used to seeing points get distributed for contribution, of course, that is something that happens on the PWA Studio project as well. And we're being very diligent now about making sure that the right labels are applied to ensure that those reward systems are properly triggered. Right, Tommy?
Correct.
And I think that's about it. Any questions for Tommy? Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps us up for today. Quickly, I'll just open the floor to anybody that has a general comment or question or something they'd like to see next week or something we're not doing, something we're doing great at, whatever the case might be. Silence means we're doing great at everything. So thanks everybody for joining again today. Have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you all again next week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andrew.
Bye, y'all.